I want to teach you how to build your story.
My story? What story?
And in this video, I'm going to talk about how to start off every story so that your prospect's brain cannot avoid it. I'm Dr. Dan, I'm a neurostrategist, I'm passionate about the brain, and I'm here to help you take your message to the masses with a scientific approach to the age-old method of storytelling. So I want to tell you the key ingredient to every story is how you start it. Why? Because it's the first thing they hear. This is biology. The things that I teach is about hormones and how physiology works when we hear a message. So the brain is the first organ to hear and interpret your messages. So if you know how to formulate your story so that the brain grabs it and it's sticky,
Why is it so sticky?
you win every time. I get excited about the science because it's reproducible. You may be brand new into storytelling, you may be a veteran, or you may be somewhere in between that has never done it before. I'm here to tell you, when you apply the scientific approach to storytelling, you will always win. So it comes down to three specific hormones: dopamine, cortisol, and oxytocin. You don't need to know their names, you don't need to know what they do. I just want to assure you that everything I teach, it's a scientific approach, which means you can do it no matter who you are. Let me ask you a question. What is your favorite word in the human language? Would you believe that I know the answer? I know the answer before you know the answer. You ready? The answer is your name. You relate and respond to your name unlike anything else. If you were walking down a crowded street and somebody yelled your name, you would turn back and look. We identify with our name. We have since day one. Why is that important? Because when you call somebody by their name, they respond. Notice emails that you get that you're more likely to open and read because at the top it says your name. We relate and connect with our name more than anything else out there. Now, when you're creating a story and building your stories that sell, you don't know everybody's name, so you can't use their name. Here's the second best part. When you're building and crafting your stories that sell, you can't use the name of your prospects because you don't know them. So what you must know is the second greatest connecting point besides their name is their story. And the way you connect your story to their story is by telling the backstory.
I gave him a name and a backstory.
Every great story in a book, in a movie, in a documentary always tells the backstory first. In the first 9 to 11 minutes of every movie you've ever watched, there's been a backstory that's been revealed. It humanizes the main character. It's so vital because now we then watch the entire movie through our eyes of this person. And that's what's cool. McMaster University did a study where it showed that when we hear a story, three things occur. We think about the motives of the protagonist, the main character, the desires, and then we put ourselves in their shoes. Now, why in the world does this pertain directly to you and your message? Because facts tell and stories sell. If you're gonna sell yourself, your brand, your business, you have to tell a great story. Story's everything. I'm telling you, story's everything. And the quicker you get that, the more success you have. It's all based on the brain. My approach is a very scientific approach, which means that you could be brand new into a business, or you could be a veteran of 30 years, or maybe you've never told a good story before in your life. The scientific approach that I take can help you do just that. Scientifically, what a backstory does is it puts us in the shoes of the main character, and more importantly, it increases oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. It's the trust hormone. If you're gonna sell anything to anyone, you've gotta build trust. And your backstory is the key ingredient to doing that. Let me give you an example. If you were to travel over to London and get on one of the big red buses, when I was over there as a team physician for one of our Olympic teams, I was able to experience these red buses. And what happens is you get on a red bus and you tour around the city. So I want you to imagine if you were to get on one of these buses, and as you are walking back to your seat, you saw somebody with a sweatshirt that had a logo to your high school. You would first off take a double take, and then you would say, where did you get that shirt? And if they said, this is the high school I went to, I graduated in such and such a year, and it turned out that they were 6 years younger than you, but you went to the same high school. And here you are meeting them, seeing them on a different continent. You find out you went to the same high school, you had the same teachers, you lived on the same part of town, you went to the same church, and all of these things you have in common, you share with this person you've never met before, but you are literally thousands of miles from where you grew up. The question is, what would your relationship with this person have quickly become? You would have a bond with this individual that could not be established by any other means. And we can measure this through the bloodstream. It's called oxytocin. It's a level of trust that you get because your backstories connect. When you connect with somebody's backstory, it not only humanizes you, it connects you on a level that nothing else could ever do. Are you starting to see the importance of the backstory? So when you're starting to establish your story, you're building your story, you're crafting your story, you're getting ready to put it out there, you have to start with your backstory or your history or what got you here. So where do you start? Well, I teach all my clients to think about 4 major things: mothers, fathers, teachers, and preachers. That's where we got a lot of what made us who we are. Was through the teachings, the education, and the environment that our mothers, fathers, teachers, and preachers put us in. What's so fascinating is there's a term called neurocoupling, which means that when you tell a story or a part of a story, that the person listening actually hears it in the same area of the brain that you're telling it from, as if they're experiencing that story that they're hearing. And this is why a story is so compelling on a scientific and neurological level, that when you tell a story, it allows them to experience the story. And when they experience it, it breaks down barriers like skepticism and doubt that allows them to be open to your specific message, your method, your offer, your service, your business, that no fact or data or piece of logical information could ever do. And this is what just fires me up and gets me so excited about the concept of story, because when you nail this, and you lean in here, when you nail this, guys, I'm telling you, it changes your marketing, it changes your branding, it changes your business, it changes your sales, it changes your revenue, and most importantly, the impact you are called to make. You know deep down you have a calling on your life, and that calling is going to require you to be able to communicate to people so that they can do something with it. They can believe differently, they can behave differently, and nothing does that like the power of story. So think about the movie The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy was a normal girl. That story had to establish early on that she was just a normal girl who was seeking adventure. She lived in Kansas, the Midwest, and she was looking for something more. And all of a sudden this tornado comes and this adventure lands up in her lap. And then she goes on this adventure to overcome this main principle that you see throughout the story, is that your circumstances don't determine your outcomes. It's your personal accountability. It's your personal responsibility. And she goes on this adventure and she meets the lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow, who all were missing something, right? They had certain circumstances that looked from the outside that they were limiting, but the principle within that message is you can overcome despite your circumstances. I go over this example because that story isn't created if we all don't see ourselves as Dorothy, that we're all yearning for more adventure, but we're also that normal person. And at the end of the day, we have to leave to find that adventure because we're not in Kansas anymore. The critical element of that story was the first part of it that made us all relate and lean in and see ourselves as Dorothy in that movie. So remember, your story isn't a compelling story unless it has the backstory. And it doesn't need to be long, but you need to establish that backstory, that history, that aspect of the journey that they're gonna relate to and see themselves in. And by the way, when all else fails and you're struggling with the principle your story must convey, every story, every good story involves overcoming this internal struggle. But you can't overcome that struggle unless your prospects see themselves in your story. And this is why the start of every story must begin with a great backstory. And when you do this, you'll hit home runs, because this is the scientific approach to storytelling. If you want help on this, check out my book. I talk all about it and more, with more examples and the how to really nail your story so you're crushing it in the marketplace, no matter how skilled or experienced you are. There you have it. That's how to start every story and crush it every time. Hey, hit me up in the comments, like, subscribe. Dr. Dan out.